of legacy do you hope that you leave behind that people will remember?
That's a good question. Well, I definitely want to leave the impact that girls and young women were always involved from the early days. Many girls might DJ, MC for a summer or two, and then, go off to college or go get married and do other things. But girls have always been involved, even if it was being B-girls, even if it was just being call and response girls for the different crews here in South Jamaica, Queens, and around the city. And it's something that if any young girl wants to aspire to do, she should do. And I will also definitely leave the impact of me teaching the history of women in hip hop and of the history of Southside Jamaica Queens. It's important that we tell the history across the board. You can say the Bronx created hip hop. That was a certain style. When I speak to the older brothers here in South Jamaica Queens, they tell me they learned from different places, and there were different styles at that time. I would never take anything away from any part of New York, but there was a movement coming up in the city, and there were different things going on in every neighborhood. Let's talk about it all. Let's document it all. You can't say we were sitting on our hands out here in South Jamaica Queens. We have major sound systems. So let's talk about that and not take credit from anybody else that was involved in early MCing and DJing.
Now, being a DJ and even an MC for many, many years, you obviously love doing it first and foremost. How would you describe what you like most about being an artist?
Well, I would have to say the thing I like most is creating, writing, and actually putting the song or putting the music together and then watching people enjoy it and party and have a good time. I was never so much on the industry side of it, of, framing a good song and selling 1 million records. Of course, that's important now because there's a hip-hop industry, but I precede the hip-hop industry. So for me, it was keeping the people dancing, having a great time, saying a rhyme that no one else has said, doing original stuff, not biting. Because biting, although apparently nowadays it's acceptable, it's not acceptable to me, but I see a lot of it take place, and I believe that there's so much that we can do, so many words that we can add to our vocabulary, whereas we don't have to write or copy off of someone else.
Awesome. Now talk a little bit about some of the historian things that you're doing. Right? In what ways are you being a historian, documenting, teaching? What are some of the things that you do to keep that history alive?
Well, I actually sat down to write my memoirs in July 2009, so I started writing about my early career and some of the early jams that I went to. So I wrote about MC Sharrock, I wrote about Queen Lisa Lee, I wrote about the Mercedes ladies, and with social media, I said, I wonder what they're doing. So I just looked them all up on social media, and I said, well, I wonder if I could meet all of them and bring them together. So I did that, and I brought them all together. I got to meet all of them. I actually ended up doing pro bono media and public relations for MC Sharrock back in 2010 for her book, Luminary Icon. And her and I actually wrote a special for SiriusXM Backspin Channel, and it aired on SiriusXM back in March 2011. So, that's a lesson to anyone. Go for it. You never know what might happen. And with the Southside Jamaica Queens legends, I reached out to DJ Divine, who's a well-known DJ. He's known as the father of Southside hip hop. I reached out to him and all of the legends in Southside, and once they began telling me their stories, and some of them started telling me, DJ Ron Fleming told me he started DJing in 1966 on Suffolk Boulevard at a club, and that he was 12 years old, and that he learned from DJ Flowers how to put his sound system together. And I said, 1966, wow, So when I start hearing these different stories, I said I have to write books, I have to do documentaries, and I have to leave this history behind for the culture, not just for Southside Jamaica Queens culture, but for everyone to know what these young DJs did back in the day, because it's important Black history, and it's just important to American history.
Absolutely. What else? Did we miss anything?
Well, no.
Were there artists male or female, generation after yours that like kind of reached out to say like, thank you for what you did, like you inspired me. Was there any of that happening?
Well, I did get that from many of the artists when I started doing my Herstorian work. A lot of them are recording artists. So we precede the recording era. Because we were in the parks in like 1977. So recorded hip hop started in like 1979. So some of the young brothers and sisters that start rhyming in the 90s or even after 2000, would say, thanks a lot, thanks for, going out there in the parks and, because we were dragging crates of records and equipment to the park and DJing in the hot sun. And now, when I meet a lot of young artists, they're in studios, and, butter soft leather furniture and flat screen TVs. I mean, they have it really good. And I said, I give them props, and some of them give me props. I had the opportunity to kick it with Mr. Cheeks briefly. A few years ago, I took some photographs with him. And he's from out here in South Jamaica, Queens too. But I like to see that they have followed through with what we started, and that they're touring and that they're making records, and it didn't just stop with us. And I just want to keep writing the history so that people know that there's a broad history all over New York City that is predominantly not written, and that people like you, Ryan, we thank you in the B-Shine for what you do in documenting history are important, and that we should tell our stories because it means something to history and it means something to our communities.
And I think that nowadays with young kids, teenagers in the 20s, when they hear a rap song, they think that's hip hop, whatever it is. But it's an overarching culture, and it's just one little piece. Like the music is just one little piece of the culture. But in your words, if you were explaining to somebody, like a 15-year-old that just likes rap music, like what is hip hop? How would you define it?
Well, again, another good question. For me, hip hop was something that was said by MCs when they were going from one rhyme to another. So it was kind of like scatting that they do in jazz. It was like hip hop to hip it hop. It didn't have a meaning. It was a term that was later given a meaning. So for me, hip hop became what I heard from Sugar Hill Records with Sylvia Robinson and her family when they put out Rappers Delight and they put out that type of recorded hip hop, short form park jam DJing, which is what I called it, because we MC'd and DJ'd all day and our rhymes were like 12 minutes. So, some of the early rap records like Rappers Delight, Funky 4+1, Rapping and Rocking the House were like 16 minutes long, because that's how you rhymed in the park. You just rhymed and rhymed and rhymed until you ran out of rhymes, and then you thought of some more, So the abbreviated form of hip hop, which is what young people do now, what you hear on the radio, it's fine. It's all art. I say that's hip hop. You might ask someone else and they'll say, well, there's 5 elements of hip hop. We never went by the elements of hip hop here in Jamaica, Queens. That was a Zulu Nation thing. The knowledge, wisdom, the DJ, MC, and B-boying and graffiti. We didn't go by all of that. Yes, that was a part of black culture because that is what we all did here in Jamaica, Queens. And yeah, that was a part of what we did every day, but we never categorized it as hip hop and there were certain elements. It was just what you did every day. You was a big girl, you danced in the street, you MC'd, you DJ'd. That's just what you did. It was no formalized categorization of it. So. All
right. So what makes it? And it's just out of curiosity. You say it's every day. It's just what you do every day, and I hear that for years. But what's the difference between what someone does every day as being hip hop versus someone else that isn't hip hop?
Okay, well, I might say, and I can't even stereotype you or profile you. I don't know where you grew up. I don't know what you grew up listening to. So let's just say you grew up listening to rock all the time, and you might have, listened to heavy metal. Yeah. Chances are whatever was in that culture, that's probably what you did. Maybe you went to the parties and listened to heavy metal music, or you went to the concerts, or you dressed the way heavy metal bands dress. You were part of that culture. But then maybe you heard hip hop. So it's like, I like hip hop. I'm not saying this is your story. I'm just giving you a hypothetical. And you're like, yeah, I like hip hop. So then maybe you went and got you, a sheepskin coat, and you got a Kango, and then you got a box, and then then you came into the culture. That's not something that you did every day, and you're like, I like this, and then you mixed your heavy metal with the hip hop, and it became true to you. But for me, it was just what I did. I got up, I put my Pumas on, I put my flare leaves on, I put my sweatshirt on. It was just regular. But when it became mass media centered, so to speak, and it was something where a magnifying glass was put over New York, it was like, well, what are they doing? So then everything was examined and what the young people in New York City were doing at that time. And it was a cool audience. You lived in Jamaica, Queens, you go to the Bronx to parties, you go to Harlem, people in the Bronx will come out here and go to parties and go and perform. That's what it was until it became international with the Sugar Hill Gang. And then when Run DMC made it mainstream, then it was just like unstoppable. So I give props to everybody. And I say, if you call it hip hop, that's fine. But for me, it was just growing up. So people that want to talk to me about me growing up and being a teenager, I'm sure I'll tell you, but I was just having fun. It was just like going out playing sports. I was just good at poetry. I was good at MCing. So that's what I drew to, and my girls wanted me to rhyme, so I rhymed. So I hope I gave you a good definition of hip hop, but it wasn't so canned. It wasn't so, you had to meet a certain criteria in order to be considered hip hop.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much.